episode of Candid Moments with Candice. My guest today is a friend of mine. She is one of the most inspirational people that I know, as she continues to share inspirational stories on and off the stage everywhere she goes. Please help me welcome to the microphone, Alyssia Deitritch. Hi, Alyssia.
Hi, Candice.
Hi, nice to see you. It has been since
Oh,
November 2019.
Oh my goodness, it's been that long already. I guess so.
Right?
I feel like I'm still stuck in 2019 because of the pandemic. 2020 never ended.
Yeah, me too. It's weird. It's been a year and a half.
Well,
Crazy. Thank you for joining me.
well,
You
thank you for having me.
I've been following you in your group, so I know that your past year has been more eventful than mine, in good ways and bad, in life struggles and whatnot. How are you feeling today? Oh, wait, before I begin, what are 3 things that you're grateful for?
3 things that I am grateful for. I am grateful for family. I am grateful for having having employment that compensates me well, even through a pandemic.
Okay.
And I am grateful for my comfortability with being vulnerable nowadays. I don't hide myself or wear that mask anymore.
Oh, that is so important. Oh, good. I'm grateful for the fact that I can work through home. I'm grateful that I live on the lake. And I'm grateful for a very good conversation over the phone with somebody I deeply care about.
I definitely am jealous of the lake house property. That sounds wonderful.
Oh, it's so nice. It's an apartment building, and people keep moving in, and they are, even if they've downsized from a house, they are so happy here because the ducks come to visit us, so we see the babies grow during the summer, and it's just, it really brings everybody outside. And I don't have a balcony, which, if I paid a little bit more rent, I would have a balcony, but if I wasn't down by the lake, I wouldn't meet my neighbors. So I'm so grateful for not having a balcony, because then I can meet my neighbors, because it's so hard to connect these days, but I get to know my neighbors, which is nice. We keep our distance and it's safe and everything. But
Well, human connection is needed, whether in a pandemic or not. So I'm glad that you have that opportunity, especially with the little ducklings. It's just every time I see babies in nature, it's just a reminder of the cycle of life and a spring, and I don't know. I guess fortitude moving forward.
Nice. So some people don't know, I interview lots of people who are local to Sudbury, but I've also branched out, and there's people who I talk to who are outside of our community, and you are a Torontonian, correct?
No, I usually say that because a lot of people identify what Toronto is, but I'm from Kitchener, Kitchener area, so KW. I happen to work in the GTA, so I spend a lot of time in that Toronto area.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm Kitchener at heart, and I'm happy that way because I'm not a big city person.
No, oh, I feel you. Kitchener is nice. So you have gone through so much, and are we going to talk about the poetry slam today, or this past year? What do you want to hear first?
Yeah, we can talk about a few things, but I guess it all roots on my father, right? So the poetry slam will involve elements of my father, but I guess we can get to the core of why is it about my father, right? And so I'm happy to talk about the journey that my family's gone through in the last 8-9 months, and still continuing. So
Okay, good.
yeah, so if you want me to just openly talk about it, or do you want me to just answer questions?
Yeah, just tell me a story. Tell me a good feel-good story.
A feel good. I don't know if it's feel good until the end, but
okay.
Okay. So it started very traumatically or tragically because with COVID-19, we've all been facing this exhaustion of when is this going to end, myself included, even my father, right? And and a lot of times it just felt like it was going on for a long period of time. So we're all getting to our end point, I guess. And you'd start to wonder, is it okay to have the flu anymore? Is that COVID or whatnot, right? So my dad and I didn't have the greatest relationship for many years. He would say otherwise because I never really shared my feelings with him.
Okay.
Um, so he would say, yeah, the prodigal daughter, or whatever you want to call me, the one that's successful, whatever that means in today's standards. Um, but I had deep resentment toward him for many years, and so this past December 2020, my dad had said in late November that he was feeling sick, and we were both kind of believing that it was just a cold, right? Just another common cold.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember something that I sort of regretted in the days that followed, which was I received a text message from him that said, just in case, maybe don't come over for a little bit. Your mother and I are feeling sick, very fatigued, and like we got hit by a train. So I chalked it up to, yeah, he's just got a bad common cold.
Right.
But the thought that ran through my head was like, yes, now I have a real reason to avoid Christmas this year. And
Okay.
Christmas isn't always a fun experience for me because it's not the family I wish I had at times, right? But the moments that followed after that had me come to regret that statement that I had made because um, he progressively got worse with that cold. And around December 1st, I received a phone call from him, and I could hear his voice was very raspy, short of breath. And, they're saying that those are the severe common symptoms of COVID-19. So you start to wonder, like, when they say short of breath, what do they mean, right? I'm not the one experiencing it, so I can't tell, but does my dad know if he's having shortness of breath? Based on what I could hear on the conversation, he didn't sound well at all. So I said to my dad, you know what, like maybe just to be safe, why don't you just get a COVID test? And he's like,
Right.
okay, I don't really know how to do that. I said, it's okay, I'll book it for you online. And so I continued what I committed to. I booked him a test, told him the details, and the following morning he had to go to that test. And I received a text message from him, which was um, the morning of December 1st, I believe. And he said, you know what, Alicia, I'm a little scared. Can you pray for me? Um, and I
Oh,
said, yeah, absolutely. Dad, you'll be okay. I've had one COVID test in the summer. It's not a fun experience. It hurts a little bit. It's a little uncomfortable, but it's in and out in a few seconds. You'll be okay.
okay.
And then you'll feel better after we get the results, right? Um, and he said, okay, and when will I know the results? And I said, well, sometimes they're quick, sometimes they're a few days, but they don't call you. You have to go on their online portal. And this is where he had said to me, can you just do that to me? I'm a little stressed right now. Can you just figure out the results for me? And me trying to implement my boundaries, I guess, because I do a lot of stuff for my family, and I feel that sometimes they over depend on me. Um,
Right.
and so me trying to implement my boundaries, but at the same time not knowing or realizing just how sick my dad was, um, I said, Dad, you can do this. This is something you can do. It's easy. You go on the website they provide, you enter your information, your health card number, and you'll find out if you have COVID or not. And I could hear in his voice, please just do it, just do it. And I'm again trying to stay firm on my boundaries. I said, Dad, no, you can do this. Anyways, I need to go. I'm at work. I'll talk to you later. Right. So, and then I didn't hear from him after that test, which was the morning of December 1st. I didn't hear from him again until December 2nd at 7 p.m. because I finished my day. I didn't even get a text message from him, which is rare because he's usually small talking me, asking me what I had for dinner, telling me what the weather is,
Yeah.
just surfacey conversation, right? Um, so Tuesday went by, Wednesday now went by. My shift finishes at 7 p.m. and I'm thinking, this is weird. I haven't heard from Dad at all. Is he mad at me because I wanted him to, do the COVID test by himself and get the results by himself? So I called my mom on my way home from work and I said, hey, is Dad okay? I haven't heard from him. And She said, he hasn't gotten out of bed since his test yesterday. And I'm like, uh, like, is he eating? Is he breathing? Like, and then she's like, he hasn't even gotten up to use the washroom. And I'm taken back, right? That's not healthy. That's not normal to not use the washroom in over what, 36 hours.
Oh,
So I was
there's
concerned,
first.
concerned
Mhm.
for his well-being. I was concerned, is he drinking enough fluids, right? And my mom said, yeah, I'm checking up on him. And said, okay, do you have a thermometer? Did you get the COVID results? Like, she didn't have one, so I figured I'd bring a thermometer over to her house. I brought some ginger ale, your typical stuff that when I was a child, my mom would care for me with those supplies. So I brought them to my parents' house, and in the process of that, on my way home, I asked her to check the COVID portal. And again, I faced frustration because my mom was unable to do that. She was having difficulties in wanting me to do it for her. I said, Mom, I'm driving. I can't get the results right now. Like, you're going to have to do this. I tried to walk her through it. It wasn't going well. I was just getting more and more frustrated that I have to do everything, or I feel that I have to do everything. And so, you know what? I said, forget about it. I'll get it when I stop the car. And when I went to get gas, I stopped the car. I checked the portal, and the scariest thing came true. My dad had COVID-19, right? And not only was he positive for COVID-19, but he was experiencing some of the worst symptoms. So, ding, 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 that thing goes off in your head, like, oh, is he one of those people that they talk about in the news, like that severe case, right? But at the same time, I was feeling so emotional because I just felt like I just need a family. I just want to feel like I'm taken care of sometimes, not I'm doing the caretaking. So I called a mentor of mine and I said, hey, can I come over? And he always invites me over for dinner and a chat or whatever. So I went over to his house just to have, an older friend of mine that could act as a mentor or a father figure for me. Um, that's actually Gordon Melville, and you should be familiar with him from Oman.
Yeah, from Mo Mondays.
Yeah, and
From
so Gordon
dinner.
was wonderful. He was happy to have me over. We had dinner, and everything was okay. I was not really messaging or contacting with my mom at the moment. I had already dropped off the supplies. I said, continue to monitor him. I'm going to go to my friend's house, right? So I went to his house, and we had dinner. Um, and then I received a phone call from my mom, and she said, your dad wants to talk to you. And I think this was around 9 p.m. or so. So um, she puts my dad on the phone, and I hear his raspy voice, and he says a key statement that put the alarm bells off in my head, that he wasn't okay, and also became the last conversation I had with him, and it is now going to be my poetry slam topic.
Okay.
And that was, give me a minute. And so he says on the phone, Alyssia, if anything goes wrong, my life insurance will cover the funeral. And I'm taken back. I'm like,
Oh my God.
whoa, like, I'm even feeling the emotion right now because I can put myself right back in that moment,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
And so as soon as, sorry, give me a second.
Oh, it's okay, but we're in such a better, you guys are in such a better place now.
we are, we are.
I don't want you to relive that.
No, that's okay. It's okay. It all ends with a happy ending, right? So let's get to
Right.
that piece.
Yeah, we have to focus on that.
So after that, after he said that, I realized, this is serious. And I said, why is he saying that? Like on the phone, I said, why is he saying that? Like in my head, I'm thinking he must be thinking he's going to die. Like why would anybody else make a funeral statement or a financial statement, right?
Right.
Um, so I said, okay, Dad, if this is what I think it is, like if this is going to happen, I need you to know. Whew.
It's okay. Whew.
I said, Dad, I forgive you.
Oh, wow. That is huge.
And he's
That's
like, he's
wonderful.
confused, right? He's saying, like, forgive me For what? Like, remember how I said he seen me as, like, our relationship was great to him, right? So to me, I said, I forgive you for not being there for me for the sexual assaults, you know? And my mom restated, Larry, you know, when you weren't there for her in the way she needed. And he was confused, so I don't think he really took it in. Um, and but what I meant by that was that when I needed him when I was younger, he just kind of brushed it under the carpet, like, move on, get over this type thing, right? He didn't mean that. He just didn't know how to help me. So,
Right.
but I needed him to know that if he truly was going to go to heaven that night, that, you know, I wasn't going to be angry forever.
That is so big of you. Oh, I can't put myself in your shoes, but you're helping open people up to that side of us, right? Like that takes courage. That's one of those life or death moments.
Absolutely, like a defining moment. And for me, it just hammers home the importance of, um, well, family, which I was kind of brushing aside because of my feelings and resentment for them, but also for having those candid conversations, right? And
Right.
and for
I love
having
it.
and for having those vulnerable moments with your family, even if they're not approachable people. Sometimes those things just have to be said. And for me, it was just, I knew it was that moment. I knew that if things took a turn for the worse, and it sounded like they were going to, I needed him to know, like, you can rest peacefully.
Right. And it's okay.
Yeah,
Wow. And for everybody to know, he got through this illness or virus or whatever you would like to call it. And
absolutely. So
he's still healing from
he's
that.
here. Yeah, he is. So what transpired in the next 91 days, that's how long he was in the hospital.
91.
91, a long time. So what transpired after that moment was, um I went home, and I couldn't sleep that night because I was worried about him.
Yeah.
So I called back and I said, "Is Dad gonna be okay? I think I'd feel better if he's at the hospital." And my mom said, "Well, he doesn't want to go. Like, he thinks he's gonna get more sick there." And I'm like, "I think I would feel better if a doctor was watching him." And then it got to the point where it was like, "No, I don't care. You know what? Pack him a bag. I'm calling 911. It's happening, right?" And so I called 911. I went over to their place. I didn't enter because he was COVID, and I didn't want to um, increase my risk, right?
Right.
Plus, I had to go to work and stuff in the days that followed. So I wore a mask. I went on the driveway of their property. The paramedics came by, and the firefighters, and they were wonderful human beings. That it's on my list to send a thank you card to them yet, but
Oh,
they're wonderful human beings. They helped me calm down. They went inside. They got my father, and they brought him out. And so again, I wasn't able to, like, approach him like I would have loved to. So um, my mom, obviously living with him, could kiss him on the forehead or whatever, because, you know, she just accepted I live with him. She probably has it. In
right.
fact, she did
Wow.
have it. She did have it as well, but she had no major symptoms like he did. Um,
Oof.
but yeah,
It's a lot. I know. Oh,
deep breath. So he came out onto, like, he was wheeled out on a stretcher, or a chair stretcher, and the closest I could get to him was a shoe. So I can distinctly remember squeezing his running shoe, and I said, "Dad, you're gonna be okay. I love you." And
oh,
and he said, like, he mumbled something, but he looked so pale and he couldn't really talk. And the paramedic looked back at me and she said, "Did you hear what he said?" And I said, "No." And she said, "He says, I know, and I love you too."
oh.
And so, coffee time.
Yeah. I had like 4 coffees already, so I'm drinking water.
Hey, it's okay to fake. I wouldn't have known if you wouldn't have told me.
Oh, there you go. It could be whiskey, but I quit drinking.
Good for you.
Thanks. when all the rest of the world started drinking during the pandemic, I was sober.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay, so in that moment, I'm happy because not happy, but at peace because I said what I needed to say. He
Right.
said what he needed to say, even if he can't recall that moment. We both had our moment. And as he was being pushed down the driveway, I said to my brother, like, say what you need to say, Josh, like, just in case. And he said the same thing, right? Like, bye, Dad, love you, I forgive you.
Oh my gosh. Your brother said that too. I forgive you. Oh wow. And you had no idea what was going to happen within his recovery, his care, if you guys would build a ramp in your house and see your dad come home. I only
Absolutely.
know
So
that from following the Facebook group.
amazing. So yeah, so in that moment, we didn't know if it was the last time we would see him or not, right? So we said those statements, and then I can also recall that it was cold. It was December 2nd, right? And so we stood in the driveway. It was around midnight, and the three of us were holding hands. And your audience is going to be crying. I'm sorry for everybody who listens to this.
Yeah, that's okay. Hey, I want more of an audience. I'm not too sure how much of an audience I have right now, but yeah, I hope they do tear up because like I'm bawling my eyes inside.
Okay. So we're standing in the driveway, and the three of us are holding hands. And I am not someone who typically prays aloud. Like, not really comfortable to me. Like, if I'm gonna pray at all, I try to find that closeness with God, and on my own journey with that as well, right? But so I decided it's a good moment to do so, and regardless of how I might sound out loud praying, who cares? I'm just gonna do it. So um, I held the hands of my mom and my brother, and I had said, Dad has hurt a lot of people, but we need him here. And so we pray that he'll be okay. Got ya.
Hey, this is part of life.
It is. But now that I've taken your audience through their series of emotions,
Yeah.
let's get to the better part. So I went home, and an hour later we got the news that my dad was placed on life support. And when I heard that word, I for some reason just visualize life support as pulling the plug, right? Like those pivotal moments where families are put in a position where, do you want to pull the plug or keep them alive? And so when I
Right.
heard life support, I didn't think there was much of a chance. I just thought, oh, like we're going to be eventually asked that question, right? So um,
Okay.
I went to bed, if there was any time to sleep at all. But I woke up. We called the doctors, and then we had decided from that point forward that we were going to check in twice a day. And shortly after, that's when I created the Facebook group, because I was overwhelmed by the support in the community, by family, friends, mentors. All of the networking that you don't think matters comes into play in that pivotal moment when years and years of volunteering and working and speaking, or my work, my volunteer, my parents volunteer there, or my parents work and whatnot. And so everybody together, and then extension to those people, just a huge network of support. And so we had around 330 people, I think, following the support group,
Yeah.
as well as my cousin created a GoFundMe page for us. Um, and in the span of 1 week, it raised $10,000. So
Oh
uh,
my gosh.
incredible, right? So finances, of course, you don't want to be worrying about that in that moment, right? So we had, unfortunately, my dad didn't have access to long-term disability at his work. So of course, that was a worry of mine. But as soon as that GoFundMe page came in, I had a little bit of time to rest at ease. Me being 28, some would ask, why wouldn't your mother kind of take the ropes here? But I'm just in a situation in my family dynamics where my dad handles all of that business, right? And so when he was gone, not gone, I don't want to say gone, when he was
In the
resting
hospital.
at the hospital,
Right.
I that position sort of naturally fell into my hands, where I looked at the finances and whatnot. And in addition to that, my mom was, isolating for 14 days because she also had COVID. So
Oh,
that made it worse. She can't even go hug her, and she's now alone after spending, over 30 years with her husband. Now she's alone
right.
for the first time for 2 weeks, and
Oh,
um, and and my dad's in the hospital, right? You can't go comfort her. I do doorstep deliveries, and I'd be crying, she'd be crying, we'd be, just looking at each other, and my heart broke, right? Because
oh
I
my
just want to
God.
go hug her, and I just want to make sure she's okay.
Right.
Um, and I want to be taken care of too, right? I want to hug. Um,
But you took on his role
I took
during
on his
his
I took
his
on his role, and so one of the things I learned, some of those conversations that we don't want to have about death, we need to have. So
yeah,
my parents never had a proper will created. So not since I was a little girl, right? So it wouldn't even be applicable anymore. It was, if parents were to die, the children would go to the godparents, right? I'm 28 now, so that's
right.
not applicable. So we didn't have any a will that we could use. So since my mom was sick, I couldn't even go to the bank to get information about my dad's accounts because I needed my mom, right? So she's joint on account, but I needed my mom to be there when she couldn't come. So it didn't
And
matter
then
if
there was no power of attorney because
no
there's
power of
no
attorney
children.
documented. My dad always told me I would be the power of attorney, but he never put it on paper, right? So
Has he
when
now since put that
yeah,
in
we have
place?
that was on my list. When dad's better, we're doing that. So yeah, we got that finished, and that's complete now. So it didn't matter. There's policies in place, right? And for good reason. But no matter whatever story you have to share with the banks, it doesn't matter. Your dad's on life support, they can't give you the information. Your things are gonna bounce, right? Your
Right.
checks and your bills. So I had to do a lot of grunt work looking through my dad's phone. Thank goodness he did not have locked. Because that was able to help me find some notepad entries and whatnot to find passwords to ultimately get on his online banking
That is
and
so important.
yeah, figure all that stuff out. So it really made me think about something, and it was just like even I have passwords that I would consider organized, right? And so I would say they're organized, but you need a password to get into the passwords to get into the list of passwords. So
Right.
so if I wasn't here, someone would need a password to get in my phone and a password to access my list of passwords, which those two passwords they would not know. So it really makes you realize like you do need to have hard copies of this stuff somewhere, right?
Yeah,
Um,
that's true.
so after all of that was done, every day we're calling in and out, calling in and out. How's dad doing? How much air is he receiving? Um, so he was on life support for 21 days, and on December 23rd, we all celebrated because he was moved out of the ICU and onto a normal hospital floor, and the breathing tube was taken out of his body.
Yeah.
Um, and so he still had a huge recovery to do. He was still very disoriented and heavily medicated, so he wasn't himself, wasn't able to walk or anything. So, and on top of all of that stress, we couldn't visit him, right, because of COVID-19. So, um, the very first visit we got was by a Zoom call, which was when he was on life support, and I just obviously, I have no pictures of that because it's not a moment that you would take pictures of.
No.
But I saw my dad on the breathing tube. It's all machines holding this tube in his mouth,
Oh,
and I think that was like December 16th or something,
oh,
and I we're all crying, but we're all happy to see him, even though. And the nurse told me he's sleeping. He's not going to be very responsive, but I had said on the Zoom call, "Hey, Dad, I love you," and I seen him do this, opened his eyes, like he acknowledged I had said "Dad,"
oh,
right, and
oh my heart.
waterworks.
Oh my gosh.
And then we said like he couldn't talk because his tube's in the way, and he's again medicated. But I said, "I love you," and then my brother's saying, "Dad, we love you." My mom's saying, "Larry, you're gonna get better. You're gonna get through this. You're a fighter." And we're like, "Do you love us?" And then you see his head kind of go. So he acknowledges he can hear it, but he can't
Right.
respond in the ways that we would normally respond. But just knowing that he knew we were talking was enough for me. That it was like, oh, thank you, God, right? Like
And he wasn't like 100% or even 50% conscious at
No,
that.
not at all. So I'm like, that's incredible that he was able to still pick out in his state of where he was at and know
Right.
that family's talking to me and I have to respond in the ways that I can, right? And a little nod of the head. So
So that moment, you must have been given so much hope because you guys didn't know how long. Like, I don't even know. Like, I don't listen to the news or anything.
oh good.
Just
Oh,
it's just negative. So,
oh yeah.
Alyssia, tell us, what is COVID and how does it affect, or how can it affect the human body?
Yeah, so it's not
For your dad.
like from my experience is the most severe cases creates a pneumonia within the person, and so and that's what the shortness of breath is, a pneumonia, and so the person can't breathe properly, and so that's why my dad needed a breathing machine. But like I said, as he started to heal, the breathing tube came out. He had a feeding tube through his nose, um, and over the span of 91 days, he ultimately did get discharged on March 3rd. So we were very happy to hear that. It did come with some long-term impacts, which is that he has I don't want to say permanent because we don't know that yet, but he does have a feeding tube inserted in his stomach. And the reason for that is that the life support ventilator tube nicked his vocal cord. And so I learned so much medical terminology throughout this
Yeah,
process. But
I remember
one
from
of
your
the
posts.
things, one of the things I didn't know is that a healthy person, so we have two problems with my dad that he's recovering from. One being the vocal cord is paralyzed, one of the two vocal cords. So in a healthy person, the vocal cords are like two nodules, I guess, right? And so they open and close, open and close. And so the closing is what is the vibration that creates our speech. So when we talk, it's bouncing together. His, say one of them is stuck, so it's kind of going like that. And so that has a space. And so when
Right?
food goes down the esophagus, it can go into that space, which would go into his lungs instead of his stomach, which would cause another pneumonia. And
And
so
to choke.
yeah, and so it's called aspirating your food, and so that's why he needs a feeding tube right now because it's not 100% safe for him to eat. So yeah, he's eating liquid food through a pump and a bag that goes into his stomach, which is horrible to watch.
Oh,
But we're all hopeful that it'll be short term. Um, he is eating soft diet by mouth, oatmeal, yogurt, and he sometimes takes risks that scare me, but that's his decision. And you don't realize that food is a quality of life until it's gone, right? So
right.
um, anyway, so that was one of the two problems. The other problem is that his esophagus isn't working properly. It's called dysmotility or swallowing difficulties. And so, like I said, a healthy person at the bottom of your esophagus would have like a flap, I guess, or an opening closing.
Mhm.
So when the food comes down, it opens, food continues. But my dad's is kind of just doing whatever it wants, right? So food can go into the stomach and can come back up. And so that's the second thing. So my dad does require a surgery, at least one, maybe two,
Okay.
to fix those. So we're slowly working with surgeons to hopefully get a date on that. But I can tell you on March 3rd, the day that he came home was like a day I'll never forget.
They
Yeah,
put there was a CTV
there
news
was.
special about that when he
Yeah,
came
so
home.
yeah, we ultimately did three interviews with CTV News actually. So um, yeah, one of the things that we celebrated was that I didn't know this until I was told by the nurses, but every time there's a positive, not positive as in COVID, but like a successful COVID-19 discharge, as in the person successfully left the hospital, they
Okay.
play the song "Here Comes the Sun" by the Beatles to let the medical staff know another one made it. And so
Oh,
I just got
that's so,
goosebumps again myself. So
oh, I got goosebumps. Yeah.
so as we
Yeah.
were approaching March 3rd, I was told this was going to happen, and so they said the nurses were like, "Don't worry, we're all going to be crying with you." Like, and so I
Oh my
picked my
God.
dad up, and then they play that song, "Here Comes the Sun," all right, and sorry, my singing abilities is not
No,
great as my
that's
speaking,
okay.
um,
I love it. So
and
can
so
he,
yeah,
his name is Larry. So
Larry
can
Dietrich, yeah,
Larry speak? Is
pardon?
can he speak?
So yeah, he can speak. It sounds like a whisper almost, or a very raspy voice because one
Okay.
of the two vocal cords is paralyzed. Um, So yeah, he can talk, which is nice, but I just have to listen closer. It kind of sounds like a whisper.
Okay. And is he walking yet? There's a ring.
Yeah, so since March 3rd, he's making huge strides. Like he started out with a walker, and now I would say he brings it with him sometimes if we're doing long journeys, but just to like have a sit down. But he's walking quite well now. He lost 75 pounds, so it's a
Oh my
huge
gosh.
adjustment, right? And like that's another thing. Like clothes are not essential right now, right? Until they open again. And so
Right.
my dad lost 75 pounds, so we can't get a belt to keep the clothes on him.
Oh
So
no.
yeah, so I can't like we had to online order and whatnot, and it just made you realize that some things you do need. So, um, but uh, but yeah, so he's come a long way. He's continuing to heal. Um, and one of the nice things that I started with our relationship, right? So
Yeah.
uh, I want to start or I want to finish that up too. And so when my dad did become alert, I wrote him a 4-page letter and I told him, "Hey, Dad, like." I don't know if you remember, but this is what happened on the night when I called 911. I said I had forgiven you, and I want you to know that even if you don't remember, I meant it, and I want to move forward. And I know that you you weren't trying to hurt me with the words you said when I needed you. You just didn't know how to help me. And I got a phone call from him that night, which was January 4th or something, and he had said, "Hey, Alicia," it's a raspy voice, and when that phone call went off and the caller ID said "Dad," I was like, "Ah,
Oh,
finally!" Right? So I got that call. "Hey, Dad," and he says, "Just wanted to let you know, I read your letter. You're very, very well writing." He's like, "I want you to know that like I tried my best when you were hurting, and I just didn't know what to do." And he says, "But anyways, going forward, hugs are free and clean slate moving forward." And I said, "Yes, I agree." Um, so
oh,
our relationship is a lot better now. I'm completely real with him, to the point that I've talked about my mental health with him, which is never used to happen. Um,
wow, what a shift in your
yeah,
family
absolutely.
dynamics, like in the
Yeah,
communication.
yeah. And now I can go in for a hug whenever I want, and I can get one. So, um,
Oh, that is
yeah,
so positive. Alicia, this was a beautiful, candid moment. Thank you for opening up your heart to me. Oh my gosh, I'm so grateful. And I had a feeling that this would happen today. I didn't know how it would unfold,
well,
but
that's the beauty
wow.
of candid moments, right? They just
Yeah,
happen
it's
naturally.
just part of life. And Poetry Slam will be online, I assume.
It is. It's gonna be. I'll be sharing my video, and then it can be shared and whatnot. And then the actual competition is June 23rd. And
Okay.
if I make it to the top 10, which will be decided by the judges and by the amount of shares I receive on the days prior to that,
Okay.
then I will compete for one of 3 spots in the top 10. So fingers crossed.
Awesome. I'm so voting for you. I'm going to
Okay,
share the heck out of your video. Thank
amazing.
you so much, Alicia. This has been such a pleasure. And keep spreading your light and love everywhere you go.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me, Ken. This.
This was wonderful. Take care of you, Alicia.
Take care.
Alyssia Deitritch, everybody.